Hi there, Joy Horner here with another Thoughtful Thursday. Yeah, there's been a lot happening with midwifery this week. Um, I think it's started to make the mainstream news now, but on the 11th of January, the Nursing and Midwifery Council actually stopped independent midwives, truly independent midwives who are working for Independent Midwives UK, from providing care for their clients during labour. This was because the insurance product they have was deemed inadequate by the NMC, the Nursing and Midwifery Council. That being said, the Nursing and Midwifery Council have failed to define what adequate is. So yeah, it's judging us on something that it can't even define itself. When I say us, I mean the Sisterhood of Independent Midwives. I'm not currently a member of Independent Midwives UK. I had to retire last year due to ill health. But, you know, I've been an independent midwife for 11 years, and my heart and thoughts are with those midwives who've now had their livelihoods stopped. And it's not as simple as money. It's not as simple as they won't have an income, although some of them are the main wage earners in their family, and that in itself is devastating. But these midwives cannot see themselves working any other way, in any other job or any other model. So again, the Nursing and Midwifery Council have suggested that independent midwives can join other organisations such as neighbourhood midwives, one-to-one, or UK birth centres, now called private midwives, or they can approach their local trusts and ask for an honorary contract. Now, this shows what little understanding that the Nursing and Midwifery Council actually have of the role of an independent midwife. It's a bit of a clue in the name, actually. Independent, which means not working for anyone but the woman, but the family that actually employs you. And this is really, really important. So the reason that women employ us and seek us out in the first place is quite often they've had bad experiences in their past. They may have had obstetric trauma, they may have had abuse in childhood or even adulthood, domestic violence, rape, all sorts of things that women go through as a general population. And this makes engaging with the NHS services somewhat difficult, which I think is a bit of an understatement. So if a woman's come to us with birth trauma, she certainly does not want to repeat the process, however unlikely and however caring the staff are at the local unit. It would be a trauma to a lot of women even to step through the doors of somewhere where this trauma had happened, or even be in a similar situation as in a hospital. I did have a client who was very high risk, and I did, after lengthy months of discussions, encourage her to try and see, you know, could she set foot in the hospital, because we needed to negotiate a backup plan because of this high risk situation. We needed to liaise with the hospital. She was vomiting in the car park and shaking. You know, this is as bad as the trauma gets. Sometimes worse. You know, I thought it was very brave that she got that far. So these women who aren't able to be served by the NHS because sometimes they can't engage with them, sometimes they do engage with the NHS and the NHS can't provide the care. So if they're planning a natural breech birth and their local unit doesn't appear to support natural breech birth, yeah, they often look for more experienced practitioners. And independent midwives have retained the skills. We've retained the authentic midwifery skills. You know, we're really good basic midwives. We know all the nice guidelines. We've looked at all the research. We're very good at hands-on care. A lot of us specialise in breech. Quite a lot specialise in twins. What else? VBAC seems to be completely normal. You know, that is a very normal thing we encounter every day in our practice, and most of our clients are seeking to birth out of hospital. Not all of them, of course. But yeah, so we do. I think the last time I looked at my statistics, which was years ago, it was about 2010, but then at least 66% of my caseload had at least one high risk factor. So that's nearly 70%. So again, another misconception, we're out there doing lovely fluffy home births and, you know, we don't look after the high risk women. Well, I'm afraid we look after the highest of high risk women. In smaller numbers than the NHS, but yeah, we can give a high level of one-to-one care for those people that really need it. But as I said, all this was suddenly halted. The Nursing and Midwifery Council let all the members know just before Christmas. Excellent timing, lovely Christmas present for everyone, wasn't it? That come the 11th of January, they could no longer look after their clients. So any clients booked with independent midwives have to make alternative arrangements. Now, for some women, it may be okay to engage with an NHS midwife in their own home, and for a smaller number it may be okay to go to hospital and receive care. I think a far greater number will not engage with NHS services for the very reasons that I've already described, and that leaves us in the tricky situation of women birthing without a midwife, because if their midwife cannot legally attend them and they cannot face the thought of engaging with an NHS midwife for whatever reason, these women will give birth on their own. And although I have nothing against free birth whatsoever, I think it's a very empowered choice that a lot of women make with absolute faith in their bodies, that childbirth on the whole works really, really well, and they don't need assistance, but the odd few do. And to be forced into that situation of having to give birth alone because the person you've chosen to care for you can't care for you anymore, yeah, it's absolutely appalling. So a woman already traumatised, maybe by the NHS system, who's not going to engage with the NHS system, is now faced with that dilemma. And a lot of them will choose to birth alone. And as I said, mostly birth goes very well. Women's bodies are designed to do this. Babies are designed to, survive labour on the whole. A few don't, and a few women don't always survive labour. This is one of the sad facts. And this is why we have midwives, because midwives make birth safer. We can look out for early warning signs. We can transfer to hospital if needs be. Yeah, and we're very, very safe practitioners. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what independent midwives do. I always tell my clients I'm a very by-the-book midwife, strangely enough. I do quote nice guidelines and local hospital guidelines and talk through the research, but then I really listen to what the woman wants. And if she doesn't want anything that's on offer, despite knowing the risks, it is my duty as a midwife to serve her. So I have had clients expecting breech babies with other complications, and I've heavily advised to give birth in hospital. And the odd one or two says to me, "But what if I refuse, Joy? What will you do?" And I tell them, I'll tell my supervisor. I won't be very happy, I'll probably get more grey hairs, but being a professional, I will stay with them and I will look after them no matter what. It doesn't matter if I'm scared to hell, I will put a professional face on, I will do the best that I can for them, because that's what a midwife does. And that's what's being withdrawn. That will no longer be available to women. So yes, women can get care from, private midwives and neighbourhood midwives and one-to-one. They're not independent midwives. They're midwives working for a company. They're midwives working for a service, like NHS midwives work for the NHS service. Yeah, but this isn't all doom and gloom. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of something different. Lots of changes are happening with midwifery regulation. supervisors of midwives are going to disappear in April. Dog jumping over the bed. Yeah, and the role of the midwife will no longer be protected, and we fear that the midwife's role will be reduced to one of an obstetric nurse, doing the obstetric nursing in labour, and that's it. And that's a very sad state of affairs. So what I want everyone to do is write to their MP, write to the Nursing and Midwifery Council, write to everyone you can think of, the press, tweet, be on Facebook, and say this isn't acceptable. Withdrawing choice for women is not acceptable. Removing midwives' livelihoods is not acceptable. Losing the wealth of midwifery knowledge that independent midwives have is not acceptable. And we need to speak up about this. Any midwives or student midwives out there, join the Association of Radical Midwives. It's been fighting to keep authentic midwifery alive for 40 years. It had its 40th anniversary last year. We had a lovely party. It was very lovely. Yeah, but we need numbers. We need other midwives alongside us saying this isn't good enough, because it's not. We deserve better. Women deserve better. I think that's enough of a rant for today. So see you next week, and we'll get back on the topic of another maternity subject, and we'll get away from independent midwives. But yeah, keep the campaign up behind the scenes. I'll be campaigning and lobbying, with my midwife sisters. Okay, thank you for listening. Bye.